Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, and I'm broadcasting to you today from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown in Massachusetts. And this is the Massachusetts update for May 2nd. May 2nd. It's Tuesday. We just had a little rain roll through, but now the sun is out. Might get a little fresh air right after our broadcast today. We bring you the best in Massachusetts news and analysis, but this afternoon, I should say, we're going to start with the story out of Vermont. So, Vermont allows out-of-staters now to use the assisted suicide law. So, up until now, you could only use the assisted suicide law if you were a Vermont resident. But now you can be from any state. Isn't that nice? So I don't know what they call this. Maybe they call it suicide tourism. You know, there's all sorts of tourism. There's ecotourism. There's all sorts of tourism. The problem with this type of tourism is there's no repeat visits, right? So, yeah, you can't build a repeat business off of it. I guess not. Vermont today became the first state in the country to change its medically assisted suicide law to allow terminally ill people from out of state to take advantage of it to end their lives. Phil Scott, the Republican, signed the bill that removes the residency requirement. Last year, Oregon agreed to stop enforcing their residency requirement. Beforehand, it had reached a settlement with a Connecticut woman. The state of Vermont reached a settlement with the Connecticut woman who had terminal cancer to allow her to take advantage of the law, provided she complies with other aspects of it. We're grateful to Vermont lawmakers for recognizing that a state border shouldn't determine if you die peacefully or in agony, said Kim Callahan, president and CEO of Compassion and Choices. Patients routinely travel to other states to utilize the best healthcare options. Why don't they be able to travel to Vermont so they can kill themselves? There's no rational reason they shouldn't be able to travel to another state to access medical aid in dying if the state... I can't even read the rest of that. Mary Han Bearworth, executive director of Vermont Right to Life, testified before a legislative committee in March that the practice was and remains a matter of contention. To be clear, Vermont Right to Life opposed the underlying concept behind assisted suicide, the concept generally speaking, and opposes the move to remove the residency requirement. So I don't know about you, but this is, I don't know if you've noticed this, but this is actually has gained steam. Assisted suicide, which I believe we had a ballot question here in Massachusetts several years back, and it was defeated. But assisted suicide has now gained steam in places across the country as, I don't want to sound cynical here, but maybe as healthcare increases in cost, maybe as we have more and more baby boomers who are getting up and up and up there in the ages. And of course, the last, year or two or whatever it is of your life is much, much more expensive. So maybe those death panels that were in the Affordable Care Act, maybe they're not going to actually come exactly to fruition. It'll just be voluntary. There won't be any death panel that says, oh, you've got to die. You'll just volunteer for that. If you're pro-life, you've got to be absolutely positively against this type of thing. It's disgusting. Supporters of medically assisted suicide law says it has stringent safeguards, except the goal is for you to die, including a requirement that the repetitive requirement to have the patient voice their consent twice at least. Witnesses must sign and affirm that patients appear to understand the nature of the document and were free to duress or undue influence at the time. If Vermont lawmakers repealing the residency requirement for medical aid in dying for out-of-state patients, I know they will be greatly relieved to have access to this end-of-care life option. It's not life care if the purpose is to die. So I'm just totally against medically assisted and suicide. Just generally, I'm against suicide. I know that's a radical position. But I am against suicide, medically assisted or otherwise. Count me down as against suicide. So yeah, I know there's a lot of you that are pro-suicide. you're out there. The pro-suicide lobby is strong, right? And it is, because this is actually growing in popularity, the ability to do this. And I think definitely some part of it is the financial aspect, that healthcare providers, that states are looking at, that governments are looking at. Somehow I'm bleeding from my arm. I don't know why. I think I just had a little cut there. Somehow the governments are looking at this and saying, well, this is better for our balance sheet. That's exactly what they're saying. So, you know what's not better for your balance sheet is offshore wind. And Governor Healey is basically, I hate this website, it doesn't display the headline properly, going in big for the next phase of offshore wind. Healey administration wants to solicit up to 3,600 megawatts of additional offshore wind in the next round of bidding, adding a major step towards transforming the state's electrical grid and changes to the bidding process. Kicking off a next regulatory review, Governor Healey issued a 165-page draft request for proposals. 3,600 megawatts of capacity could be approved. And just to give you some context here, that represents about 25% of all the power that Massachusetts would use. It would be most likely twice as large as the 1,600 megawatt proposal from 2021. Massachusetts is all in on offshore wind and ready to be the industry's hub. Oh, is that awesome? That's so wonderful. The problem is that offshore wind, well, I don't even want to say that it works sometimes it doesn't. You might not remember, but Texas had an offshore wind or onshore wind in Texas's case, a calamity when they had an ice storm. Was that 1 or 2 years ago? And basically they had rolling blackouts, could not produce electricity for massive amounts of Texas because they're too tired. They're overly dependent on wind. And basically that's what Governor Healey wants to do. She wants to make us to be overly dependent upon wind energy. Now, pay no mind behind to the man behind the curtain. But at the very bottom of this article, it reminds you that Commonwealth Wind Project, which is 1,200 megawatts, that's a third of the size of what Governor Healey wants to build next, is seeking to terminate its contracts for the installation of the Commonwealth Wind Project and rebid at a higher price. In other words, they can't make the economics work. Offshore wind is very, very expensive and only will get more expensive. Jack, who pays for that? You do, the ratepayer. You pay for that. State officials are working with a relatively small pool of bidders in the developing industry. The current offshore Commonwealth Wind Project cannot be financed and built, and the company is looking to renegotiate the contract because it just doesn't make financial sense. Jack, why don't we get more of our power from natural gas? I was told that natural gas was fairly prevalent and affordable and fairly clean energy. Why don't we get more of that? Because the climate nuts have blocked every opportunity to build a pipeline from, for instance, the gas supply general area nearby is in Pennsylvania, and they won't build more capacity because the climate nuts keep on stopping that. Who's in charge of Governor Healey, former Attorney General Healey? She's done everything to stop more pipeline capacity into Massachusetts. That's why your electric bills are going skyrocket right now, because we already pay an extreme premium for natural gas here in Massachusetts. And all of you Ukrainian waving flag people who support the war in Ukraine, our proxy war in Ukraine, you folks are also supporting the Russian sanctions, so we can't buy as much Russian oil and or gas, and that means the supply is down. So as a result, price goes up, right? I know some of you far left wackos don't understand basic economics, but when supply goes down and demand stays the same, the price goes up. I know that's difficult for some of you to understand. So I need to get the blackboard out to show you that. So if you're supporting the war in Ukraine because you think the Ukrainian borders are more important than our border on the southern border or even the northern border with Canada, if you think that's a good thing and you think no more energy from the United States, no more natural gas, then you're the problem. Every time that I drive by someone's house with the Ukrainian flag, I think you're the one that's making me and everyone else pay more money for energy. I mean, and that's just a plain fact. I mean, that's just what it is. You are causing our electric rates to go bonkers. And right, we just covered this a couple of days ago on this show. And how do I want to say this? How do I want to say that? Other than you're to blame? No, I think that pretty much covers it. I guess you're the one to blame in your self-righteousness. You're the one to blame. Thanks so much. All right, here's some good news. WBUR is not too happy about it. They're crying. Little appetite for rent control on Beacon Hill. They're very upset. They're very upset that actually nobody wants rent control on Beacon Hill. There's been a big push recently to tar and feather the people on Beacon Hill that are property owners. Oh, how dare they own property, right? How dare they own property? There are a lot of legislators apparently own apartments or are one or two or maybe several. I don't know. But I know. How dare they own property? Nobody should own property. Everything should be part of the state. Don't you know that already? And joking, don't quote me. That's how they think. And as a result, the whole rent control thing, even though theoretically some people are pointing to some poll numbers that say that Massachusetts citizens want it. 30 years ago, we got rid of it by ballot referendum. Mayor Wu wants it. At least she looks like she wants it. Mayor Wu is pressing hard to introduce rent control in the city in hopes of stabilizing the housing market. Of course, more government involvement will definitely fix things. A city-backed bill to cap rent increases at 10% on roughly half of the city's rental units has been on Beacon Hill for more than a month. There's little appetite, BUR cries. Cry harder, please. Massachusetts has banned since 30 years ago. Yes, which was awesome, 1994. Mayor Wu has been tackling Boston's housing affiliate top priority. Don't you like that declarative sentence from a supposed news outlet? The city council in March approved a home rule petition to exempt Boston from the statewide ban. Now, Wu needs approval from lawmakers. Boston's home rule petition was sponsored by Sam Montano from Jamaica Plain. I hope I got that right. I'm not sure. Forgive me if I mispronounced it. Montano is optimistic and wants to dispel the preconceptions and early fires that have been started by opponents who say rent control could hurt the development and quality availability of housing. It's not going to hurt the development of housing. It's going to destroy the development of housing and the quality. Why would you invest to keep up your rental housing if you can't increase the rent? I mean, we've seen this movie before. That's exactly what happens. Less housing gets produced and the existing housing gets neglected. That's exactly what happens. It's not quite as scary as they think. No, it's scarier. It's scarier. Rent control is scarier than you think. He's got that thing right. It's been given a number of signed to a joint committee, but so far, no other lawmakers have signed on as co-sponsors. Not even members of the Boston delegation, other than this one guy from Jamaica Plain. Not one member, which tells you exactly what's happening. This is, I hate to use this term, but this is performative. Mayor Wu is making this effort to appease the far left commie wing of her party. And having worked in the State House, I know that if the mayor files a piece of legislation, almost always you get all of the Boston delegation at a minimum to sign on to it. because that's how things are done. When you only can have one member of the Boston delegation file the bill and no other members of anywhere, including the Boston delegation, none of them sign it, then nobody's really serious about this. So this is, as I said, good news. The arguments against the amendment were that rent control could drive up prices of non-controlled units and that some landlords wouldn't keep up. Yeah, that is true. It is scarier than you think. It is absolutely positively scarier. That is good news for today. It's good news today that that rent control is not gaining any steam. Hopefully that will continue. Cambridge tries giving thousands of low-income residents money, no strings attached. So if you're a resident of Cambridge and you have a family and you're under a certain income number, you're going to get $500 a month for the next 18 months. No questions asked. No qualifying required. No lottery. Sometimes these programs are capped at a certain number of recipients. There is no lottery for this. And so, as best as I could tell, this technically was not government money. But of course, how do I want to say this? Money is a fungible thing. So from what I could figure out, they did not get actual government money. But of course, money is fungible, right? But it's some type of grant from the, let's see if we get this organization for you. Hold on here. It's a grant, sorry about that, from Mayors for Guaranteed Income. Now, where they get their money, that I haven't been able to track down. But let's just assume it's nonprofit, non-government funds, which I'm sure it's not, but let's just assume it is. What do you think is going to happen to the city of Cambridge when they start giving out $500 to any resident who has a family and makes under 250% of the federal poverty line, or roughly $46,000? What do you think is going to happen? Chelsea is also experiencing some type of demo program on this. There's one in California, Stockton. There's been a number of programs across the country, pilot programs, Atlanta, elsewhere. What do you think is going to happen? San Francisco, I think, Oakland, maybe, somewhere on the West Coast as well. What do you think is going to happen when Cambridge starts giving out $500 to people with families, no questions asked, and under a certain income number? They're going to get more families. When you incentivize something, you get more of it. When you subsidize something, you get more of it. So more poor people will flock to Cambridge to get the $500. That's just what's going to happen. And I know that comes as a big shock. They'll all say, oh, that's not going to happen. Yes, that is going to happen. That is going to happen. I mean, so the response, to just understand how Democrats work, the response to that question will be, you know what? If that happens, then we should make the program statewide so they can so they don't have to move to Cambridge. That will be the response. They're going to double down or triple down on stupid. The response will be, let's make the program statewide. As insane as that is, that's exactly what they'll try to do. But yeah, there's no accounting for stupid. Is that how the phrase goes? I know this next story is going to come as a complete shock to you, but Boston Medical Center is being inundated with migrants from Haiti, illegal aliens from Haiti. Let's bring up the story here if we can.
Haitian.
Right now at 5:30, migrants from Haiti are surging into Boston in need of help. And places like this agency in Mattapan are trying to assist them. Others are turning to emergency rooms. And right now, some migrants are sheltering at Boston Medical Center. Thanks for joining us. to assist them.
They're sheltering at Boston Medical. That means they're living there. That means that Boston Medical Center is basically
Are turning to emergency rooms. And right now, some migrants are sheltering at Boston Medical Center. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Tanaka.
And I'm Paula Eben. Anyone who's been to an ER lately knows they're already overcrowded and they don't have the services refugees need. But as WBZ shows us, anything's better than the situation.
How dare they not have the services that immigrants need? These hospitals, they should be there to service the immigrants, the illegal aliens first. Forget about us U.S. citizens.
The refugees are trying to escape.
Families with babies, Haitian migrants who have nowhere else to go. They have inundated the lobby at.
There's one other place they could go. Back to Haiti. Haiti is a hellhole. We all know that, right? And almost all of these people are here because they're economic migrants.
Medical Center, and now this crowded storefront in the center of Mattapan, helping find shelter for them. When we dropped in at about noon, 135 people here. Why did you want to leave Haiti? This man, who asked us not to show his face, spoke to us through an interpreter.
It's really impossible for us to live in the country right now, whether or not it's gang violence, whether or not it's access to any services, hospital work. There is no way for anyone to live in Haiti.
Dr. Harold Gabot is the executive director of the Immigrant.
Well, obviously, there is a way to live in Haiti because plenty of people do it. And how about you go back there and fix your country instead of coming here and making our country worse? Just a thought. Focus on your country.
Services Institute.
Housing has been a real nightmare. I don't even call it a crisis anymore. It's a real nightmare, especially for people who are coming here for the first time.
For those who don't know to come here, it's either the street.
Oh, housing is a real problem. Housing is a real problem. They want rent control because prices are going up. One of the reasons prices are going up for rent is that we have a lot of illegal aliens here that are driving up the housing costs.
Or the emergency room, where dozens have ended up lately.
A statement from the hospital says the number of families arriving here on a nightly basis has gone up dramatically, and it is stretching resources here.
Some have been placed in hotels, but advocates say they need help from the federal government, the state, and other communities.
To bring a comprehensive solution to deal with those crises, because those families cannot stay forever in the hotel rooms.
This man now applying for refugee status, which can take years. Meantime, he says Haitians just need a place to sleep.
New England is cold, and sometimes for them to spend the night in the street is not easy.
Safer than home, he says. But
you know what? It's warmer in Haiti. You could go back to Haiti. That's an idea. Why don't you go back there? I'm just saying, right? That's an idea. Head back to Haiti. Notice how those immigrant stories and the rent control story are connected. And actually, even when you stop and think about it, so is the free basic income story out of Cambridge. How soon will it be before the immigrants realize that they can go to Cambridge, become Cambridge residents, and pick up $500 a month if they have a child? Right? Or, and I'm sure all of them will be super honest about whether or not they have a child or not. They're going to be totally honest about that. Absolutely. All right. So here's some good news. The pandemic apparently is over. Let's see if we bring this up here.
The hospital said it had 0 inpatients with COVID. None. For the first time since March 21st, 2020, there has been no one in the hospital right now at Tufts with COVID. Dr. Shira Doron is the Chief Infection Control Officer at Tufts. She joins us live now to talk about the significance of this. And Dr. Doron, good morning to you.
I want you to really listen to what she says. She says something very important.
There were a lot of long, dark, very difficult days since March 21st, 2020. Did you think this day might never come?
Yeah, I have to admit I did. And you said it. There have been some really, really dark times. And I woke up this morning, I'm actually on vacation. I woke up to a whole bunch of text messages with people saying that they had tears in their eyes, that this is a milestone that we just did not know when or if we would ever see.
And absolutely a day to celebrate. What would you point to as the big reason you no longer have any cases of people with COVID in Tufts, and for the dwindling numbers overall at this point?
You know, it's widespread community immunity, hard fought due to vaccination and infection, a combination of the two, and our...
What? Whoa, wait a second. We have community immunity because of vaccination and infection. In other words, she just said something that you weren't allowed to say not that long ago, which was herd immunity. Herd immunity through natural immunity, which is how humans have dealt with viruses since the dawn of humanity. I can't even. Natural immunity was part of the solution. How did she get that by the censors, right? Is that lady going to get fired for saying that? Because it wasn't too long ago that if you said that, even like on a Facebook post, you'd like lose your Facebook account. Now there's a medical professional from Tufts University saying that natural immunity contributed significantly, so it's basically one of two solutions to no patients at Tufts University with COVID. Wow. How did we sneak that in there?
Available and highly effective treatments that when people take them early, they do not end up in the hospital anymore.
A lot of people look at this and say, well, that's it. COVID is behind us. Can we say that?
COVID is not going away. It is not going to be over, but we are in such a much better place than we were in 2020.
It's never over. No, it can never be over. We have to get more money. It can never be over. That's why lawmakers pushed back on Department of Public Health plan to end mask mandate in healthcare. So on May 11th, when the state of emergency officially ends, May 11th, that's also the time when Biden is ending the emergency. The requirement that you're supposed to wear a mask inside a healthcare setting goes away. And there's some legislators are not too happy about that. In particular, Pat Jalen from Somerville. I can't believe she's been there for like 30 years, Pat Jalen, commie from Somerville. And Tom Stanley of Waltham. I don't know much about Tom, but I imagine he's also he's commie. Every Democrat is basically nowadays. Urged him to reconsider the state's masking policy, even though Fauci just the other day said at best on its margins at the population level might only work 10%. In other words, doesn't work at all. Prolonging masking can protect the state's most vulnerable residents and frontline workers. So if you want to do that, you go right ahead and wear your mask. If you want to do that, the legislators continue. We strongly believe that masking is an effective and relatively inexpensive protective measure. It's not effective. Jalen and Stanley also, I love this sentence, also lamented that only 29% of Massachusetts residents have received the COVID booster bivalent. Is that how you say that? As of April 17th. Gee, I wonder why. Do you think people are starting to get on to the whole COVID booster thing? How many boosters should you have by now? Is it 4? I've lost track. Maybe, I don't want to suggest this because I could get my Facebook account banned, but maybe the vaccine, just saying, or maybe I'm not saying. Right? So I'm just wondering if maybe that's the case. So I went to the doctor about a month ago. Actually, I went to the doctor. I stroll in there. I'm the only one there. And I'm looking on the signs, wear a mask. I ignore them. And I walk in, there's nobody there. And on the other side of the glass, the little sliding glass that most doctors have, is the staff for the doctor's office. And they don't have any masks on. No masks. They come to the window, they slide it open, no mask. I'm talking to them. Yeah, I got an appointment at 9 o'clock, whatever it was. No mask. And I went through the whole doctor's appointment, no mask. And they didn't have a mask on either. Then I went down to the lab the next day. I went down to the lab in the same building, and I went there like 7 a.m. Now they open at 5, so I was not the first person there. And there's signs, mask, mask, mask. And so I just ignored that. Walked right in, and the nurses are behind the sliding glass window again, and no masks. They slide the door open. They converse with me about my appointment, and they hand me a mask, which I don't put on. They call my name, I walk in, we do the whole blood thing, and you know how they take a little and I'm out of there, no mask. Now, I had to go back like a week later to do the same thing for some other test, which was negative. It was no big deal. And this time, the nurse asked me to wear a mask. And then I said, well, I was here a week ago, and I didn't wear a mask. And she was like, no, you weren't. I was like, I was literally here a week ago. None of you had masks on, and I didn't wear a mask. And she was like, no, you weren't. I was like, yes, I was. Oh, man. So it's all a scam. Even the healthcare workers know it. And I just pray to God that these legislators will not be heard and that DPH will finally come to its senses and you can go to the doctor's appointment without a mask. Which if you want to break the rule, you can totally just break it just like I did. Go ahead. Be civil disobedient. Make some good trouble. Make some good trouble. Well, guess who else is in trouble? 4 Boston students taken to the hospital after ingesting edibles, police say. Looks like someone's mom might be missing a few edibles. Mom's little helper. Several students were taken to the hospital Tuesday after ingesting cannabis-infused edibles, according to school officials. The incident happened about 11 a.m. at the Henderson K-9 Inclusion School in Dorchester. Police said 4 students were taken to the hospital ingesting cannabis-infused chocolate edibles. Oh, I'm sure it was just an accident, right? No, they wanted a little chocolate. They dipped into the little chocolate jar, and they took the wrong ones. I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah. A parent of one of the students told WCVB that the incident happened in the school bathroom. Smoking in... so I guess you don't smoke in the bathroom anymore. You vape and take edibles. 3 students ate edibles and 1 student used a vape. School staff immediately called public safety, not the cops, right? Because you don't want cops in the schools. The families of all students involved were immediately notified and students were sent home, were seen by the school nurse. EMS arrived and students were taken to the local hospital for further investigation. In March, 3 students from the same school were taken to the hospital after they ingested cannabis-infused food item, commonly known as a marijuana edible. Oh, was that special? Nobody could see this coming. My wife's texting me. Nobody could see this coming with how do I want to say this? With the passage of legalization of marijuana. Nobody saw that coming. I was totally blindsided by this story that some kids would get a hold of the edibles and try to pop them at school. Nobody saw that. It was a complete surprise. Complete and absolute positively surprise. All right, so that is the update from Massachusetts and Vermont, as it may be. Thanks for joining me. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack here in beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown, Massachusetts. Have a great day.